From the St. Francis Yacht Club in San Francisco, this is the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, hosted by Ron Young.
Welcome to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, live from the virtual grill room of the St. Francis Yacht Club. We hope that you and yours are safe, sheltering in place in a comfortable environment, and we look forward to greeting you back at our yacht club as soon as conditions permit, and we hope that will be soon. I've recently had lunch at the YC, and it's wonderful to be talking to people face to face versus just via Zoom. We have a group of speakers today, so this is going to be a terrific WYL, beginning with Nick Deuyour. Nick grew up in Washington, where he met what would be his sweetheart, Erica Kaplan. We know Erica because Paul and Chrissy Kaplan are longtime members, and he went on to become a young sailor after the America's Cup in 2012, become a broker at City Yachts. And he brought this idea of compact mega yachts to us a bit ago and has then allowed us to meet some of the founders, including Bryan Savage. Bryan Savage, a marketing executive from London, helped get Swan into the racing adventure when he first owned a series of Swans, and he introduced his son Chris Savage to the sailing world as a Swan skipper and ultimately professional skipper. We know Chris Savage because he's been a pro for quite a while and raced in and managed very, very big boats, including managing the Rolex yachting sponsorship program for 20 years. So Chris has seen quite a few yachts from the perspective of a sailor and from the perspective of yachting sponsorship. And lastly, as co-founder of Compact Mega Yachts, I want to introduce Kevin Daly. Kevin Daly grew up in Long Island Sound, became a sailmaker in Long Island Sound, and back in '93 sold his sailmaking loft to North Sails as part of the North Sails roll-up of sail lofts around the world. A competent sailor who's gone to the dark side, admits enjoying powerboats as much as sailboats, and is part of the brain trust that's developed the compact mega yachts. So Kevin, tell us all about compact mega yachts.
Ron, thanks very much for having us here. And we've been very pleased to join you and your luncheon group. So back in 2019, Bryan and I started Compact Mega Yachts to do something new and different, create a boat that when you walk down the dock, it wouldn't be the same old thing. And here you see it on the screen. And we would like to give you a little bit of a trailer, so to speak, intro of the boat.
So Kevin, I've got to ask right off, part of these Zoom meetings is we get to see everybody's Zoom environment, and you win first prize in today's Zoom environment contest. From where are we seeing your image? What yacht are we in?
Well, we're inside one of the compact yacht, the 161 Salon, and I'm out here in sunny Connecticut right now on board the boat.
Great, it looks beautiful.
Thanks, Ron. Here's a little trailer to get us all excited about the boat. As you can see, the boat has very distinctive lines. We wanted to, as I said earlier, create something that was different. We wanted to create a boat that had lots of light in it, lots of windows. So we've even overlapped the side main window with the helm window. So you really have 360 degrees of light coming into the boat. And the lines are meant to be super clean, modern, and reminiscent of a mega yacht. So one of the things that we did when we started this project, we studied a lot of the bigger boats that are out there, because that's where you see most of the innovation going on these days. The mega yachts and super yachts have really broken new ground with design styling. So we wanted to piggyback on that and create that in a more compact style. So things like the forward sloping windshield and the recessed ports in the hull were important for us to incorporate into the boat and make that feeling evident in a smaller package.
What's the benefit of recessing the ports on the side of the hull?
Well, it's largely a style thing, but on a big boat, it's to protect the window from waves and sea.
Okay.
So
how many models are you planning?
we'll probably end up with about 4 models. This is our second up from the bottom. We'll do a smaller one. And then we are already working on the next larger model. And then we'll have 1, maybe 2 larger than that.
Give us the sizes you're planning.
Mid to high 40s, this at 53 feet. Then another one just under 60, maybe 57 feet. Then there'll be one in the mid 60s. And we've already been talking with a client about a 75 footer or 232.
They look very roomy. The new lines with the freeboard make the boat look very roomy.
Yeah, well, we're trying to create a lot of space in the boat. And one of the things that we've done is, like up here on the upper deck, we have a fly bridge that we've made it more of a lounge style than actually a driving location. But many people still would want to drive the boat from there. So we've hidden an optional steering station in that cockpit table. So you would flip it up and you'll find a GPS screen, your throttle control, a joystick for tight maneuvering, and also your autopilot. So you could actually drive the boat. But when you're done for the day, close it down and it gets out of the way. So we want to have that nice open feeling.
So Bryan Savage, as the guy who basically brought Rolex into sports sponsorship, you've done lots of entertaining on your Swans. Talk to me about the entertainment value of this modern design. What do you like about it from that perspective?
I think people really do require volume. I know it sounds a silly thing to say in a way, but they do actually need volume. And so many, for example, we were talking about I'll call it the flybridge there, that you go up there and half of the usable space is actually taken up with a helm position up there. So we looked at this and said, look, when we want to go up there and to relax at the end of the day or whatever, and have our glasses of wine, etc. I mean, give a proper space to it and don't put too much in there. Actually keep it not minimalist, but be very focused on exactly what you're trying to create here. Right? And that applies for all of the boat. We're not trying to put everything and quadruple kitchen sinks in just for the sake of putting quadruple kitchen sinks in. It's just to not minimalize it, but to make everything work for its living and to keep the space as usable as we possibly can.
What's the cruising speed? Chris, you've raced lots of beautiful yachts, and you and I now see powerboats that are going, faster than anybody imagined when we were kids.
The cruising speed is 24 knots if one has the 3-engine configuration, and we'll come back in a minute to talk a little bit more about the different engines that you can have on board. But of course, the opportunity that we have is that there are an almost endless combination of engine options for this boat. I'm not going to give it away too much because Kevin's about to show us all how it all works at the back end. But the boat in the standard configuration with triple 300 engines, will go up to 27 knots maximum. But it also has different modes, which again we will explain, because with triple engines, and outboard engines, it allows different combinations for different scenarios and different events. But I think we'll come back to that in a minute when we're showing you the actual under the cover, so to speak.
Jumping back to Brian's comment about the room and volume, one of the things we want to do is be able to open up that cockpit to the salon. So we put in bifold doors, and that will enable us to just totally open it up, and you just get a lot of room on it. So one of the other cool features that we've actually incorporated in the boat is a computerized touch table. We call it the Boyd touch table. It's actually a fully waterproof touch computer screen that's built into the table. So here's an idea of a little bit bigger than what we're planning on. But Chris, maybe you could explain a little bit about it.
So the idea is that it is a glass table, and if it's switched off, no one would have any idea that the table is anything different than a glass dining table. but by basically allowing the screen to be an interactive screen, it allows us to throw up all sorts of content, almost an unlimited amount of content, whether it to be playing air hockey, chess, checking email, surfing the internet. We can put all of the navionics, navigation for the boat up there. This is showing marine traffic with an AIS, so you could actually be sitting having lunch and say, well, there's a boat just coming by. Who is it? Press a button, and the whole table turns into a chart of the bay that you're in, and be able to look around and see what's going on. But there are lots of other interactive elements which combine also with your mobile, which we'll come back to in a minute.
So Ron, here's a cutaway of the boat, and it's showing the single level nature of the boat from the aft cockpit through into the salon. And that's one of the things that we wanted to have, was just easy getting about, as if it was at your home, and make it just as comfortable as your home. So to maximize our volume in the boat, I don't know if you noticed, but we have two sets of stairways, one on either side, and we call them walkover side decks, as opposed to what typically you'd find in a cruising boat, walk around. Everybody wants to walk around. But when you have that side of your cabin house coming down to the deck and so forth, that cuts out several feet out of your width of your boat that's usable for people living in couches and so forth. So we've pushed the living area all the way out, gains about 30% of the room or volume in the boat. So here's a layout of our standard model. And you can see on the left side, we've got a dinette that you can lower it down and make it into a bed. On the starboard side, we have the galley. And this is slightly recessed, and I'll show you in a moment what that looks like, but it's down 2 steps. So it's a little bit hidden. And then there's a lounge area behind that, also convertible to a bed. Across on the port side, TV and a media center. So here's the galley down below. We offer 2 distinctive setups for the galley. One is down below and the other's on deck. And this is because many people, they don't want to see the mess in the galley, and we want to offer that solution for there. It also just makes a little bit more room with the lounge area. And other people will want to be right in there with the mix. So we've offered both. So here you can see how it's kind of tucked in down below. One of the things that we wanted to point out, and this is a pet project of Bryan's, our distinctive signature light line that you can see if you see my mouse going along below the windows and up above the window. Now, actually, I'll pause for a second and just say that one of the really enjoyable things with this whole project has been that we've been incorporating multiple companies, not only our builders who we started with from the very, very outset, so that we could create a boat that was buildable economically. But we've done the same thing with Oxa Engines and lighting company and so forth, so that we could engineer this yacht to be economical to build, economical to buy, and long lasting. So with the light line, it's been a really fun project where they're actually developing lights specifically for this boat.
And Kevin, someone, if I can just interject really quick, this is a great shot into the interior salon from the cockpit. And someone who sells a lot of boats, I put my eyeballs on a lot of new innovative design, and a lot of builders are going to the indoor outdoor flow, all one single level all the way across with an opening, hard enclosure on the back. But this really gives you a thoughtful perspective as to how much thought went into the design and how clever the design is in foregoing the side decks. And I know we talk about the walkover side decks as kind of a speck of the boat, and that might seem boring, but right now you can actually see the benefit where you're gaining at least 2 feet on port and starboard in the salon and stretching it all out, which, is the whole point of bringing, what feels like a mega yacht into a compact size that can fit in a slip right outside the club's front door.
So, Chris, while many of us know you as a professional sailor, I know that you've also graduated and are a naval architect. Who is the designer of this yacht?
It's a combination of Bryan and Kevin have been developing the boat themselves, but in conjunction with a naval architect in Australia called Paul Burry, and between them they have crafted the boat, working also with the factory in Finland.
So, Bryan, how long has this been in incubation, this idea for this yacht?
When I retired out of business in 2000, 2001, and eventually ended up living in Monaco. And that is, in Europe anyway, the epicenter, if you like, of powerboats. And sitting on my own powerboat by then, getting to know the various owners, watching the new boats being delivered, etc., etc. And you begin to think, are they actually getting what they need? I mean, when you actually start to analyze it, you can strip it right down to almost 4 basic things in the end, okay? Obviously appearance, because that is absolutely central to the whole thing. But bling doesn't make it necessarily better. But what people actually want is something that is strong personality, if you like, a reflection of their own personality, if you want to put it that way, but also with an image that frankly reaches the jetty before the boat does. I mean, something that is that powerful. Then, of course, you have the volume, as we talked about earlier on, where so many boats actually try to pack in too much into it, and therefore everything starts to become rather small and rather tight. It's better to do the main things and do them properly and do them well. Then we look at the power source, as we've already talked about. Again, I know from experience, when I decided to do a trip around Italy to Venice, say, a couple of 1,000 miles, and I think actually I don't think about the restaurants that I'm going to visit on the way. I think about the fuel jetties that I've got to visit on the way, because every time I pass go, I have to spend 5, 6, 8,000 euros. So by the time I've got back again, I'm bankrupt. So the power and the power source and the economy of it, and the economy to the wallet as well, is actually very important. And when you talk to owners and of other boats, etc., really, they don't necessarily like to admit it publicly, but they will, after 3 glasses of wine, tell you, it's cost a fortune to run. And the last thing, obviously, in this is the price. People are prepared to pay for quality, but the price has got to be a sensible price. It can't be just a silly price because the hand stitching on the upholstery or whatever. It's got to be a sensible price. But if it's a sensible price, people are prepared to pay for quality. So you take those 4 things and you start to think, well, hang on a minute, none of these boats here on my jetty, including my own, actually fulfill these requirements. So we literally started off with a blank piece of paper. Kevin and I, because I've known Kevin for many, many, many years, and Kevin and I started off with a blank piece of paper with a single line drawn on it and built it up from there. We were very fortunate to actually come in contact very early on with the builder of our choice, and worked with him, because it's a design exercise, all right? A clever designer, if you like, gets over various problems. We weren't going to the builder and saying, this is it, how much? We actually worked with the builder right the way through every aspect of the design, and he had actually write a veto over it, so he could actually say, no, we don't want, you can't build it this way, it'll be better if you build it that way. And our skill is to turn that into a design which actually works.
So Ron, actually, this slide is very apropos to what Bryan was just saying, because I think the atmosphere of where we started this project was somewhere like this, on the aft deck of the boat with a couple of bottles of wine and a lot of chatter about how we might be able to do things a little better than's being done. So, but this is a shot of the galley up breakfast area, and also the telescoping seats can drop down and move over to the dining table. And you can also see where we've got the bifold doors open and it's just wide open to the transom. So here we're looking at the GA of the boat, or the general arrangement as it's called. And we went with a 2-cabin boat for our first model. We wanted to give each cabin plenty of room and not jam the boat in. So we've got an owner's cabin forward, oversized queen berth. You've got your own in-suite head with a shower. You've got a guest shower and head after that on the starboard side, and the guest cabin on the port side. And a lot of times you'll travel with another couple. 2 separate berths is not the way to go. So we've designed this from the beginning to be able to slide the inner berth outboard and make it a comfortable berth for a couple. Now, one of the reasons that we went to Finland for our builder is their wonderful use of wood. Both Bryan and I were involved with Swan, and they are one of the premier builders of Finnish boats. You can see here in this photo how wonderful and rich that cabin's going to feel. Here is the guest cabin. It's got, as I said before, the 2 beds that can slide together. There's a hanging locker and storage in it, and some more sunlight coming in. And again, the rich use of wood. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our powering solution. So if you haven't guessed it so far, we've put outboard engines in the boat. And this is a little bit unique in this size of a boat as far as a cruising boat. There are people doing it in center consoles that are quite large, but not in cruising boats. But what has allowed us to do this is Oxa Engines Diesel Outboard Company has come up with high torque, high power diesel outboards that can propel a boat of this weight at up to 27 knots, as Chris mentioned earlier. So we developed in-house the concept of trying to do variable powering. What that means is only use the number of engines that the boat requires to go the speed you want. So if you want to go high speed, you'd use all 3. If you are doing docking maneuvers, you have your joystick, so you want to use the outer 2 engines. You don't necessarily need the inboard, the middle one, so you can leave that up. You'll save fuel, save exhaust going into the environment. And then if you want to just do a long range cruise, like Bryan was saying earlier, when he's heading off to Sardinia from Monaco, and instead of it costing him several thousand euros in fuel, you could go along at 7.5 knots with 1 engine only. The other 2 engines are up to reduce the drag, and you can go up to potentially 3,000 miles.
3,000 miles on 1 tank of fuel. How many gallons in the tank?
800 gallons.
Okay.
So I'm going to quantify that with, it's theoretical at the moment, okay? And it will be dependent on how clean you keep your bottom, how much weight you've put into the boat, how much wind there is, and how much waves, okay? If it was smooth water, no wind and all that, and a clean bottom, potentially you could get that distance. Most people are going to get a fair amount less. But just the fact that you can go a really, really long distance for not a lot of money is great. I mean, Chris did a study a while ago, and he started calling me up and saying, you know, you can go, and I'll throw it over to Chris for that one, because it was amazing.
Not only, as Kevin mentioned, is the boat incredibly efficient. The diesel engines are actually BMW 3 Series engines, which have been marinized, and so their emissions are just unbelievably good. We're talking about 98% drop in some of the carbon dioxide emissions. So compared with gasoline outboards, this is a completely different game. The other aspect that Oxa has done is move the gearbox from down at the propeller up into the main casing. And you'll see some pictures in a minute of how that looks. But primarily what that's doing is reducing the size of the bulb down by the propeller. So the boat is about as economic as one could be with these sorts of engines. The center part of the boat, we referred to the 30% extra volume in the main saloon. Part of that is also created by being able to then drop the main saloon floor, because there's obviously not 2 big inboard engines underneath. So by dropping the main saloon floor, we're giving that huge space that you saw earlier. If you add to that the reduction in noise, not sitting your main accommodation area right above 2 huge diesels. So by putting the noise out the back under a cover, but also all the vibration goes out the back as well. As we all know, big diesels do vibrate no matter how you do it, as do 2 huge propellers sitting on 2 huge stern tubes. So by taking all of that away, putting the engines out of the back, we're winning in every single way, particularly though on the economy. And finally, I'd like to say is the maintenance side of it, and being able to switch engines around, change engines out, perhaps upgrade engines. It's just a complete no-brainer in terms of maintenance. There's no huge gearboxes, there's no engine room fit-out costs. So the future, not just this boat, but the future of all motorboats of this type, I'm absolutely convinced, is going to move towards outboard power, but where the outboards are concealed in the same way that we have. I think you see all the big brands moving in this direction.
People normally bring up when you have presentations is the question on emissions, specifically now with all this Volkswagen gate and diesels are terrible and not environmentally friendly. But when you look at the marine side, it's quite the opposite, or the least environmentally friendly products you can actually buy on the market today is either a gasoline lawnmower or a gasoline outboard. If you buy a brand new 2018 gasoline outboard, it's about the same emissions level as we had on cars back in the 1970s.
We're looking at ways of reducing the fuel consumption even further, and that's where this eco mode comes in, of running only the center engine of the 3 engines and having the 2 outer engines lifted up to reduce the drag even further. This is going to be at low speed, long range displacement mode, and that would give you a fuel consumption that would be extremely low and would give you a very long cruising range at low displacement mode.
So here's our chart, Ron, of the performance that the boat can get. So you can go up to roughly 10 or 11 knots with what's 1 engine if you wanted to. And then once you want to get up on a plane, you'd go to either 2 or the 3 engines. And you get a range anywhere from 400 plus miles with all 3 engines, basically wide open, to, as I said, 2,000 to 3,000 miles if you're going with the single in eco mode.
I'm doing in my head liters to gallons, not doing a good job.
It is a challenge, but one of the things to also keep in mind, when we started this project, we had in mind worldwide marketing and sales for this boat. And in many places around the world, their fuel costs are 2 times what we pay here, sometimes 3 or more. So it was very important for us to keep fuel economy in mind. And that was one of the reasons why we actually developed the variable powering with 1, 2, or 3 engines. Why have one ticking along wasting fuel if it doesn't need to?
So that's one of the really fascinating innovations you guys are introducing here. That is to say, you could pull up 2 engines and just tool around at 7 knots with 1 engine. It's such a thoughtful idea.
So this boat has 900 horsepower to go 27 knots, but to propel it at 7.5 knots, it only actually requires 33 horsepower. And therefore, you're literally turning off all the power you're not using. So if you're on a long journey, perhaps down the Florida Keys or on another inland waterway where there's perhaps a speed limit or a wash consideration, then you're literally switching off all of the power that you don't need and just using the power that is applicable for that particular mode. It's very, very exciting.
You also gain the benefit of trimming up 2 of the 3 motors and cruising long range, but not having that drag, but not having that running gear in the water. So if you are cruising the shallow shoals of the Bahamas, or if you're cruising up to Tinsley and through Santana Slough, what we affectionately call, our family calls Santana Slough, then yeah, you have that benefit as well as not running aground, which is a nice feature.
Yeah, the other thing you can do is, let's say if you were going into some shallow waters, you can trim up the middle engine and go with just the outer 2 if you wanted, and that'll save you a foot or more of draft. So it's quite convenient. So the other thing that is really fantastic about outboards that they picked up from the IPS or pod drive systems is actually joystick control of the boat. And this is just an amazing thing that has developed in yachting, is the ability to steer your boat with a joystick, like playing with your mouse. And it takes anybody just a couple seconds to actually learn how to drive a powerboat these days, with this. Now, one of the nice things with the Yachts engines is they actually tie it into the bow thruster as well. So should you be in very strong current, it will also give you a little less workload on the boat.
So can I guess what's happening with the engines when you pull laterally away from the dock? It looks like you've got the the port engine in reverse and the starboard engine a little bit in forward, and it basically just pulls the boat away from the dock, parallel to the dock. Is that what's
That's
happening?
correct. That's correct. And it works in concert with the bow thruster. So any input that the operator throws into that joystick is where the boat's going to go. So literally, in dealing with so many first-time boat owners, especially during COVID, everyone's having to learn how to operate a powerboat for the first time. And the jet stick takes all that anxiety, especially in close quarter docking and maneuvering, out of the equation. That's 90% of the anxiety. So if you can play a video game, you can drive this boat.
Yeah, but the other cool thing, though, to think about, Ron, is you were just trying to figure it out. That's actually what you don't want to do when you're using the joystick. Just think, what do I want my boat to do? And if I want my boat to go sideways, you just tilt the joystick sideways and go sideways and let the computer figure it out. So it's been really an amazing way. Like, I'll jump on board a boat with one of these systems that I've never driven before, and I feel I have total confidence to get it off a dock just because of these systems. It's really fantastic.
It also has position fixing as well. So in theory, you come alongside on your own, you get positioned the boat exactly where you want it alongside the dock, you press a button, leave the controls, and then you can go down and put the ropes on, because the boat is being held, even if there's current and tide, the boat's being held exactly in position alongside the dock while you sort out all of the securing.
What's the boat draw? Give us the dimensions of the boat.
So it is 53 feet overall, or 16.1 meters. And it is just under 15 feet at 14.8 wide. And with the engines up, it draws about 2 feet. And it's going to be 3.5 or so, or almost 4, roughly, let's say, with the engines down.
And when your engine's up, they're literally completely out of the water, you're saying? So they're...
Yep. Yep. So you may have the very tip of the nose cone, like you see on most outboards, but the props are out of the water. They're all clear. You're also seeing the zip wake trim stabilizers. So these are a plate that actuates up and down very quickly, that controls your fore and aft trim, but can also control your side-to-side trim. So if you're going along and you bank into a turn, it has what they call dynamic correction. So it actually knows and is going to try to level out the boat for you without you even having to do it. And you can adjust that. So it's quite an amazing, and that's a standard feature on the boat.
So now a friend of mine's putting a Seakeeper. That's what I was going to ask you about. Great.
There you go.
Here we go.
So you're not alone, your friend's not alone, I should say. And the gyro stabilizers have become as common as Kleenex, so to speak, and Seakeeper by far is the one of the leaders, but they're not alone. And we didn't want to be steering people one way or the other, because in certain areas of the world, you may not be able to get service on one or the other. So we offer a choice of either one of them. So one is from the Quick brand, the other Seakeeper. The fantastic thing about a gyro is when you're at anchor, you actuate it, and you're sitting there totally nice and flat while everybody else is rolling around. You can have dinner and cocktails. And I did a demo with one of these. It was actually with a Seakeeper, and we were in like 4 to 6 foot waves on a 53-foot boat. And we sat there with your drinks almost spilling out of your glasses, and you hit the button, and the next thing you know, as steady as could be. Personally, I don't mind the boat that rocks a little bit, because I've always grown up on it. But I'll tell you, getting a new boater involved, it is really, really nice.
So Chris, as the naval architect in the team, tell the average person who doesn't know what gyroscopic stabilization is doing.
Very, very simple terms. It's like a gyro they used to play with as a kid. And in very simple terms, when the boat rolls to the right, the weight or the momentum of the gyro moves to the left, and vice versa. So it's a silent operation. Once it spins up, you don't even know it's on. But this gyro momentum is moving back and forth. And interestingly, the device doesn't actually need to be at any one particular point in the boat. It can be pretty much anywhere in the boat, to keep it in terms of usable space on board.
So in other words, the energy of the rotation inside the gyro is transferred into the rest of the boat and keeps the boat from rolling.
Not just at anchor, but also underway.
Yeah, so you can use it either where the zip wake trim tabs or trim actuators only work while the boat's moving.
With these engines, though, another added advantage is you can actually, for example, if you were on the plane with a strong crosswind, you can actually level the boat out just by manipulating the trims on the engines as well. So there's many ways in this boat, going trim down, bow up, by actually moving the engine is a lot more efficient than using trim tabs, because trim tabs, even the zip wakes, all ultimately cause drag to make the boat move. Whereas if you actually slightly tweak the angle of the engines themselves, the angle of the propellers themselves, you're actually making those adjustments without any increase in drag at all.
So Ron, one of the things that, as we said earlier, that we're trying to be as ecologically conscious as we can with the boat. So we're offering solar panels to help reduce the need to run the batteries, I should say, run the generator or the engines to charge up the batteries. And right now we're working on a project with a customer to do a custom version where they would have much of the foredeck covered with solar panels as well, so that they could run the boat virtually 24 hours straight without having to turn the generator on. And that'll require additional battery capacity, lithium-ion batteries, but quite a nice thing to be able to do and not run the generator. We've tried to be pioneers wherever we could, and like we said earlier, try to deliver something that people haven't seen before. So one of the things that we have done here is a really nice feature is a telescoping dinghy platform and swim platform. And when the dinghies launch, if you want to go swimming and just have it submerged a little bit, you put it 6 or 8 inches underwater and you can play and have a great time. The kids could hang out there and they don't have to be swimming in the deep water, but they could still hang out with the parents.
That's a really great feature with the outboards as well. You do see the advent of that outboards going into a lot of boat builders. Hinckley and MJM are incorporating it, but you don't get a lot of swim platform area and boarding platform area behind the outboards. So having a launching platform and a swim teak beach that lowers down behind outboards is actually kind of a new innovation in the marketplace as well.
Also, what this allows you to do, not only with the extended dinghy platform, but the actual swim platform that can walk around on the stern that we have now, is when you go to service the engines, you have a platform to work from. So if you foul your prop, you can actually walk around to the back, tilt up the engine and unfoul the prop, where on a typical outboard, you'd have to shimmy down the engine or something. You may not even be able to get to it. So this makes it really convenient. And the other thing is, with the Yachts engines, you can actually change the gear ratio of the engine from, let's say, a high-speed mode to a towing mode. And that gets done by the user. Now, I'm not sure how many owners would want to change that each year, but you have the ability to do it yourself.
The benefits of just being able to service this new diesel outboard from the water without having to haul the boat, for instance, to access all of the running gear, you can do it right at the dockside. It's another benefit of the outboards.
Yeah, and they can literally come along, lift an outboard off, take it away, if necessary, move outboards to have 2 on the outsides while they come back, put another outboard in its place. It's just so versatile. And when I have so many friends who have big inboard diesels, and the problems they have with gearboxes and oil leaks and all these problems, which just completely dissolve away without the cost. We haven't actually, of course, mentioned the safety aspect between gasoline outboards and diesel, but as none of us smoke, it doesn't worry us. But there is a big issue here, of course, with safety, which also is then reflected in insurance costs.
So one of the things that we feel is important, as we put the sunshade on the aft deck of the boat, we also wanted to provide sun cover for the upper deck for places like Florida and South Asia, where there's just tons and tons of sunlight. So we have a hard top option. There's also a soft top option as well for a bimini for those that want to do both. But there are many areas that just people don't want to stay in the sun.
What's the target price range?
The base boat price is 1.255 million euros.
Just a shade above $1.4 million today.
For a 53-footer, right?
Yep.
It's the 53-foot model. Okay.
So we want to talk a little bit about our builder, who is Ocean Quality Systems up in Finland. And if you look at the map to the right, you see Nautor Swan, and then Baltic Yachts, and then OQS. They're all in the same town, Pietersaari, or Jakobstad, as they also call it. If you look on the left side here with the big white arrow is where the town is. The Arctic Circle is just above the Gulf of Bothnia right here. So they are way, way up there. And so they have very, very long summer days and super long winter nights, maybe only 4 hours of sunlight during the day. So these guys, when they want to go out boating in the summer, they want to go out and there's tons of rocks around. So these guys make the boats really sturdy and strong. So that's an attribute that we wanted. And then during the winter, these guys just love to build boats and they love to work with wood. And also Swan and Baltic are two of the most premier names in yachting. And the OQS team have all worked with both of these companies all the time, and they actually do it currently right now where they do production for each of the other companies. So we are going for the Bentley of boats.
What's the weight? And Bryan, talk to us a little bit about what's going to be delivery time, etc. If somebody said, yes, I want one, when would they get one?
About 9 months from now. But it depends, obviously, when they put the deposit down.
Sure.
But right now it's about 9 months. But the actual production, when it gets to about hull number, I don't know, number 6, number 7, something like that, then it'll be literally a 6-month build process at that point.
And what about what options can a buyer ask for? Color? Give us some range of the options.
Actually, it takes on a whole different dimension. The different colours actually give the boat a different personality to a large degree, and obviously there is a degree of customization involved here for the owner, but it is more of the, how can I say, the areas of personal taste. I mean, the upholstery and this type of thing, not so much in the actual physical boat itself in that sense.
Well, you can choose between the two layouts, and then you have color choices. You can pick your fabrics. There's a multitude of choice of appliances you can add, whether you want a Seakeeper or a quick gyro or neither of those, and that type of thing. So there's plenty of options to customize the boat. We also felt, Bryan and I, that the boat should be, in its basic configuration, something that he and I would be very happy to own. We'd be very proud of, to just sail away and we'd be comfortable in a cool cabin, or you could turn it to reverse cycle heat, that you had your bow thruster, that the joystick was there, and this even has the position holding as standard. So all these things that you see here in many other boats might be an upgrade, but we put it in as standard. So the option list is there, but not as much as maybe on some other manufacturers' boats. So here's a little bit more. You were asking about the weight of the boat, Ron. So it's about 36,000 pounds. So a bit towards the lighter side. We have Paul Berry, our naval architect, is a avid sailor and racer, but has a performance mindset. And it's his driving along with the builder to keep the boat as light and strong as possible, so it's very efficient through the water. A overbuilt and heavy boat is not as efficient and requires more power to drive it.
And also that has a side effect, if you like. Well, it's not a side effect, it's a main element there, which we have the space that would normally be the engine room.
Okay, first of all, go to outboards, meaning you can reduce potentially on maintenance, energy. You can also reduce the cost to operate the boat, cruise greater range, and then not having a side deck, that's got a big advantage, gives you more usable space of the boat. There's lots of cool advantages in this ride.
And as you asked before, can you get it in different colors? The answer is yes. So one of the things that we actually want to tell you a little bit about, or a lot about in a way, is the relationship between Compact Mega Yachts and Boyd, which is Chris's company. And one of the main features that attracted Nick when we first spoke to him about the boat was the touch table and the Boyd system. But one of the things that we also wanted to do when we started this project was market it in innovative and new ways, more by education and fun interactive ways, rather than dictating to people set ads and all that sort of stuff, and actually go more electronic with our advertising than print media. So Chris, tell us about Boyd.
Boyd is a digital entertainment platform which exists on mobile phone, as well as on lots of different tablets and also on desktop and PC. And it's a platform that we've developed over 9 years, working with 22 different luxury brands. Some of the famous ones are like Bentley Cars, NetJets, the private aviation company, leading hotels of the world with 430 hotels. And we've created this platform to allow brands to engage in fun and cool ways with their customers. So we've got rid of, first of all, text and words, because that's not just boring, but it gets in the way on these small mobile screens. And so everything that we do is purely touch interactive. So we have this room I'm in now. If somebody wants to learn about the photograph of the J80 Spinnaker behind me, the purple one, they touch that, or you touch the frame and the framer talks to you, or you touch the Samsung TV and the man who sells that TV talks to you. So everything's an interactive platform. What we do with the brands is that we merge the interactive experiences with the product manual. So if you can imagine a product manual, let's say for a Bentley car, that's so cool and so fun to play with, it's actually the ultimate authentic sales brochure, then that's what we've created. So it's cost many millions of dollars to produce the platform. And what we wanted to do with the CMY 161 was not just allow people to interact with 40, 50 hours of interactive content on the dining table, but they can take it away on their mobile phone. And I'd like to invite everyone who's watching this this talk to go onto the App Store if they've got Apple, or onto the Google Play Store, and they can download Boyd for free and have a play with it at their own leisure. But that basically is how Boyd works, and the brands that we work with are pushing out these experiences to all of their customers. We have, for example, 22,000 Bentley's current customers with Boyd on their mobile phones.
My role with this project going forwards is primarily with the interactive table and the experiences, digital experiences that will go on it. They will also be available on mobile and on all forms of devices. Ultimately, we will be producing the manuals for the boat. The operating manuals for the boat will come up onto the table, and you'll be able to interact, hearing from each expert involved in every part of the boat as to how things work and how to best look after them.
Hi, I'm John Paul Gregory. I'm head of exterior design at Bentley.
So all of the main controls to the car are situated on the centre console.
Everyone want to do whilst they're sitting there, so it can actually control the not only the rear seat.
So I am Daniela Zanetta.
Lake Maggiore, it will astonish you.
I just spread all the colors that I have on the palette.
I lived and worked in America.
I'm Jackie Chan, born in Hong Kong 12 years ago.
Salt is a 55 meter. I was like, what if I just took the things I'm learning in art?
For someone that constantly requires a challenge.
So if anybody would like to download Boyd, it's totally free. There's no strings attached, and it's on the App Store on any of your mobile devices. And basically, when you arrive, you'll see all this different content, whether it's Moet Hennessy, our alcohol partners, or Jackie Chan, or any other of the celebrities we have. Then please do help yourself and have a look. So if you think of a large iPad, that is pretty much what we're dealing with. It's IP67 rated, which means you can literally drop a hammer on it from a high height and it won't break. Plus, it's fully waterproof and resilient to sunlight and so on and so forth. And basically, this table is an interactive surface, so it even has image recognition. So you could put a product on the table, and it will go straight to the point on whichever internet site that product exists on. and it has image recognition built into it. So there's lots and lots of different, there's too many to talk about now, but not just games, but lots of business software, lots of entertainment software, and a push of one button, the whole screen electronically lifts up 85 degrees to face the interior of the boat to become the cinema screen for the boat.
Okay, so this table flips up to become also an entertainment screen. Okay.
One of the things that we fell in love with the Boyd program was that interactivity for our manuals. People don't read manuals because they're boring and you know, just, I'm not going to do it, right? So they break stuff or they don't use it properly, or only use 5% of the whole electronic equipment. So we are going to be working with the manufacturers that supply stuff to the boat to put together these interactive manuals. So it's okay, you turn it on by hitting this button. And if you want to adjust the heat, you know, like you saw in the Bentley, where they're doing the adjustable temperature on the seats, we want to incorporate that into our ship's manuals. That will be, you pull up on the touch screen and be able to do it so that you actually operate your equipment properly, because it's been fun to learn how to use it.
And no trees were cut down in the process.
And you walk away with it on your mobile, so if you're not on the boat, you can actually be learning about the boat while you're not there. It's a very, very cool bit of kit. It's not a boating thing. We're working with these luxury brands to roll out such tables and such interactive experiences on cruise ships, international airlines, the car companies we've spoken about already. There is almost limitless ways that we can turn traditionally quite boring things like manuals into really fun experiences. So as Kevin said, this is a real cool thing for this boat to have. And yeah, we're excited to start working on it.
Can I add in there that we've, by using Boyd, bear in mind that we're thinking about the owner and how the owner gets over various problems or situations, or what the owner would appreciate and understand. And as a motor yacht owner myself, right? I mean, if you start to look up manuals or whatever on anything, I mean, it's just a nightmare. So if we could actually make it easier for the owner to get to whatever information they need to get to, that's really one of the key things for us as far as we were concerned.
So Bryan, as the guy who brought Rolex to a sports sponsorship into yachting sponsorship, you've got to have a taste for fine quality. Where do you rank compact mega yachts? What are the peer brands?
We don't have a peer yachting brand, but if you parallel us with, I think Bentley is most likely exactly the situation that I would like you to think of it in terms of quality, of performance, and so on. That's the model that we are looking at. I don't like to think of other brands as competitors, because I think you start then approaching it the wrong way. I just want to concentrate on buyers, owners. What do people? If we are right, they will buy.
Nick, kind of summarize the benefits of compact mega yachts to us.
Yeah, it's kind of the sum of all of the innovations packaged into one really cool product. You know, certainly the advent of the diesel outboards is probably top of the list. You know, bringing that first of its kind technology to a recreational yacht, and giving you the joystick piloting feature as well, which makes the yacht not only, you know, a lot cleaner. There's no helm station up in the flybridge, for instance, but a lot easier for the user to operate the yacht. And then I would say lastly, obviously, the entire package comes together with the Boyd touch table, which is a really cool feature that we're really excited about, that innovation. And I think that, you know, that partnership with their branding, you're going to see that in a lot more yachts coming forth. No different than, you know, gyros being installed on pretty much every boat coming out of any plant. So yeah, I'd say that those three characteristics really create what we believe is a very exciting product, very striking on the waterline. It's not as aggressive sitting in the water as one might think. It's a 53-foot yacht, but she's not too outlandish, and she will fit in a slip right outside the YC. So we're really excited to bring this product to the West Coast.
If I may add in there, Ron, go right back to the very beginning. With our blank piece of paper, we wrote down basically 4 words, which was the appearance, the power, the volume, and the price. And we have attacked those and created this craft, not by looking at the competition or anything like that at all. We have addressed the needs of the buyer as we understand it, as we see it, and have ended up creating those answers.
Kevin and Bryan and Chris and Nick, even from the name Compact Mega Yachts, we see innovation. You've introduced several features which could be industry standards in the future. Thank you very much for sharing your story with the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon.
Thanks for having us, Ron. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And with that, the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon is adjourned.
This has been a presentation of the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon.